Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's presentation on effective health on a budget. I'm going to give it a few more moments to let everyone enter the room, and we'll get started shortly. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Thank you for spending the next hour with me. We're going to talk about effective health on a budget. It's a pretty interesting topic. I think a lot of people are feeling the pinch these days. I'm going to, before we get into things, just a few housekeeping items. We have a few things to download at the end of tonight's presentation. So a few really interesting attachments for you that I'll mention as we go along in tonight's presentation. There is also time at the end for Q&A. And if you have any questions, please feel free to enter those into the chat. And that way I can see them at the end. We'll put them over into the Q&A and I can answer those all together. And then we're also going to have some polls. So I like to do this just to sort of see what my audience is thinking and feeling. I can't see you, unfortunately, we're not live, but live and in person. But these polls just sort of help me understand what you guys are, how you guys are feeling about things. So if you want to take part, please do. They are anonymous, but it's quite interesting just to sort of see what you and your peers are feeling. So health on a budget and effective health on a budget is on the minds of a lot of Canadians, and I would say worldwide. As you know, we had a global pandemic, which kind of made health become more of a priority for a lot of different people around the world, and especially in Canada. And to go along with that, we are now feeling the pinch of rising inflation and mortgage rates, rents. Maybe wages are not going up at the same time. So I think we are all feeling a little bit of stress right now financially, and health is something that we want to maintain as a priority, right? We really don't want to sacrifice that component to save money. So tonight we're going to talk about how to live healthily and stay on budget. So we'll talk about how to achieve health with cost-effective nutrition strategies. I'll have a few recipes as well. We're going to talk about some main supplements that I would say most Canadians are potentially deficient in. So, if you're going to take anything, this might be something to consider. We'll talk a little bit about exercise routines and ways you can stay physically active without necessarily having a gym membership. And then how to support the stress response and to improve sleep. Because again, these are two main areas that when financial burden occurs or there is stress about it, we tend to lose sleep, and that impacts, of course, our whole body. So we'll talk about the impact of high inflation first. There is a poll running now, and the question is, does the current global economic situation concern you? Are you listening to this because you are concerned, or maybe you have nothing better to do on a Wednesday evening? But I would say yes, if it was me answering. I do feel the impact of high inflation, of course, my mortgage rate, higher food costs, another big one. Gasoline, fuel is, continually going up. We see utility costs going up and higher rent fees if you're renting. And on the flip side, a lot of us are not necessarily receiving compensation for that with our wages. It's really hard for, our employers to also match that inflation rate. And so we're starting to feel that squeeze a lot. And it looks like 100% of the people that answered the poll is also feeling that, or, have that as a concern. So in addition to, impacting, our choices of what we do in our spare time, or whether we buy a gasoline car or an electric, big costs are affecting our health as well. And it impacts our health decisions and can lead to poor health outcomes for both adults and children. And the one that I see the most is food insecurity. And this really means making, maybe poor food choices, skipping meals because you don't want to spend money on a meal, and just not putting that, again, food as a priority, which I think is really important to do so. We also see that we're overworking whether that's because we are, getting another job or our hours are required for more time. And that overwork will cut into, the downtime that we need, whether that's for sleeping or for doing physical exercise, or just, giving our minds a rest. We're seeing that socialization has been limited as well. A lot of this happened during the pandemic when many people started to work from home. We no longer see our colleagues. We're not having that social engagement, and that really can impact rates of things like anxiety and depression. And in insomnia, it's a big thing that's increased over the last few years, whether that's because we're not getting enough sleep or because we can't sleep well. We're not sleeping well, we're not able to fall asleep. We have an active mind, and we're not feeling refreshed when we wake up because our stress has been so high that our adrenals are starting to really feel the heat on that. So one question is, can we maintain optimum well-being during these uncertain times? And the answer is yes. We are going to help you with that tonight. So we're going to talk about how to maintain your health and prevent chronic disease while staying on a budget, right? Obviously, everyone is different. You are all coming into this call with your own, personal experience. But I hope that the things that we cover will be helpful for you. So we're going to cover how to make healthy and economical food choices, how to prevent nutrient deficiencies with fundamental and foundational supplements. Again, not all of them might be for you. However, most Canadians do have very many of the same deficiencies. We'll talk about how to engage in a low-cost exercise routine, how to manage stress, prevent burnout, and how to restore sleep for good health. All right, so let's start with healthy and economical food choices. So benefits of healthy eating. So many benefits, I don't really need to get into that. Of course, we know that eating well is important for weight and for energy levels, getting enough calories with the right type of calories. Also really important for our mood, our gut health, bones, teeth, and other connective tissue. It's what helps us grow and develop. Very important for our immune system as well, staving off infections, but also recovering better, preventing chronic disease, important for memory and brain health, fertility. It's a big one I also see in my practice, and maintaining healthy pregnancy. And looking forward, it's also really important for healthy aging and longevity. So it's really, we want to make good choices, both with the quality and the quantity of our food, but we're going to talk mostly about quality here and how to, again, maximize our health for a vibrant future health. Now, I always like to show this pyramid. You're probably all very familiar with that. The pyramid basically indicates, at the very bottom, what we should focus on the most. So that's the largest area, is what you want most of your food to be. And then it goes up and up and up. And probably you've also heard of the 80-20 rule. I like to push it a little bit if we can, to the 85-15, which means 85% of the time you want to try to eat like this, right? You want to try to eat well, eat whole foods, drink clean water, supplement with foundational supplements, consume healthy snacks, and use a variety of herbs and spices to keep the food exciting and healthy. 15% of the time you can not stress about it so much and not be hard on yourself if you needed to grab something quickly and you decided to get something that was more processed, right? We have to be kind to ourselves and patient at this time of what is going on. And there's a lot, again, with lots of stuff in our lives and busyness and stress. It is important to always be aware that we're all human, and there is a little bit of wiggle room when we talk about eating healthily. So again, if you're looking at the pyramid, the majority, if you're looking at a plate, for example, you want like a good half of the plate to be fruits and vegetables. Vegetables mostly, obviously, with your meals. Fruit, maybe a bit more in moderation. And this can be, if possible, in season, but frozen is okay as well. And not to forget things like mushrooms and fermented vegetables. And then we look at legumes, so sources of protein, legumes, which is like peas, beans, lentils, things like that. And then animal proteins, choosing things like lean cuts of meat, if possible, getting things sustainably sourced, farmed and organic, and with fish or shellfish, looking again at wild and sustainable. Then we look at grains. So grains, whole grains are good. They provide fiber, but so do fruits and vegetables. They provide a lot of energy, but they can also increase our blood sugar, right? And so they can create spikes and then subsequent dips that we'll feel, and that can be a little bit hard on the pancreas and our insulin production. So we don't want to be eating a lot of whole grains all the time, but we definitely want to encourage when we do have grains that they are whole, that they're looking at things like oats and rice, quinoa, millet, and amaranth. Glutinous products, are also very easy to access. Those in moderation for a few different reasons. Wheat generally tends to be more processed, and in Canada specifically, you're going to get more exposure to things like glyphosate, which is a toxin that is commonly found in wheat. Moving up the pyramid, you've got dairy and eggs. Again, looking at grass-fed and organic if possible, and free-range eggs over free-run. And then at the top, you've got your nuts, your seeds, your fats, your oils. So again, looking at more of the cold-pressed healthy oils, organic nuts and seeds to provide you, again, lots of good energy, lots of good fat, as well as fiber. So that's sort of the pyramid we are all very familiar with. But when we're talking about, again, looking at recipes, this is what we want to focus on in terms of portions. So next poll question I have running is, do you find healthy eating choices to be too expensive? Whether that's organic or not. Obviously, organic tends to be a little bit more if you look at if you generalize, but sometimes, those organic avocados are actually less expensive. So I'm curious, do you find that choosing healthy options is too expensive, or do you not even look at the price? Because I get it, I hear you, and I do the grocery shopping for my family. So ways to mitigate that if you find that things are expensive, if it's too expensive to eat healthy, I encourage you to try some of these things, because you may find that they're not as expensive as it seems. First, it's not even on here, but the first thing I encourage you to do is look up the Environmental Working Group, or EWG, so EWG.org. The Environmental Working Group publishes a dirty dozen and a clean 15 list every year. I don't have a slide on this, but 2023 has come out already, and basically it ranks produce based on its pesticide load. So the dirty dozen is the top 12 foods, fruits and vegetables, that is the most pesticide laden and would be best to purchase organic. Or if you have a farmer that doesn't spray, or if you grow your own food, that's fine too. The Clean 15 is the top cleanest, or top 15 cleanest foods, and they're going to be, with very little pesticide residue. So those Clean 15 products, don't worry about buying organic. Avocado and banana are almost always on that list. They really rarely spray those. So save money by buying the regular bananas and not worrying about getting them organic. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Other things to keep in mind when eating on a budget would be to practice meal planning. So, we've got some recipes that we're providing, and there's also a link to a website that's great for eating on a budget. So collect those recipes that you like, and just plan it and make sure that you stick to it. And that also will help you with your grocery shopping. So creating a grocery list for those recipes. We've also got one for you that you can download at the end. Don't shop when you're hungry. It's always a bad idea. I've done it. It's not, I just did it this afternoon. So try to buy it when you're not hungry, and only buy what's on your list. Shop for deals. So look for coupons, or, look at your flyer that comes in the mail, and try to get those deals. Eat locally and seasonally. It's always going to be cheaper because there's less cost for transit time and transit fees and all that kind of stuff. It's also healthier to eat locally and seasonally. Grow food if you can. And you can buy frozen fruits and vegetables. I encourage that over, obviously, frozen snacks, which are not going to be very nutritious. or when you have, if it's blueberry season and it's the end of the season and it's really affordable to buy a lot of blueberries, then you can do that and freeze them, for example. That's a great option for getting more nutrients especially in the winter months. And then stock up on foods that do stay good for longer. So non-perishables, if you go into some of the big box stores, that's where you can buy some of those things that you can get that won't go bad. And then turn leftovers into new meals or freeze them. Get into the habit of freezing. Investing in a small freezer, if you've got the space for it, is also a great idea so that you can use those foods later. All right, so here's a healthy eating list. We've got it to download, so you don't have to go through this today, but it might inspire you to try new foods. It might remind you that, oh yeah, there's shiitake mushrooms you can get. Forgot about those. Those are really great in ramen or something like that. So hopefully this is helpful for you to take with you to the grocery store. All right, getting into beverages. This is another thing we spend a lot of money on, alcoholic beverages specifically, and it's been talk of the country lately because they did announce recently that even one drink a week is considered harmful to your health. It used to be more like 2 to 3. So people are people becoming more aware, I guess, of this health impact. It's also very expensive. So expensive to purchase, but it's also expensive on your body down the road. Alcohol consumption is linked to over 200 different diseases, conditions, and types of injuries. And sales have increased. We know that happened during the pandemic. So in 2020, from March to March 2020, 2021, they went up by 4.2%. So $25.5 billion that year were sold. And part of 2020, people weren't going out to restaurants. So this is like buying it at your local liquor store, which is less expensive than if you were to buy alcohol at a restaurant. And in addition to being expensive, they are also costly to all of us as taxpayers. The net societal cost of alcohol use in Canada is $14.6 billion. This includes healthcare, economic loss of production, criminal justice, and other direct costs. So we're costing our peers money as well. And that money could be used in other places. We all, I'm in BC, in Victoria, we have a major doctors shortage just across the country. But that money could really go into encouraging more physicians and medical students going to medicine and things like that. I've got an image there just on the impacts, short and long term, of alcohol. Again, I'm sure you are all familiar with those. So how can we save on alcohol? Obviously, the easiest would be just to not drink alcohol or cut back. But there's other ways to do that. You can stay home rather than purchasing your alcohol at a restaurant, ordering things during happy hour, and then just making sure you do stick to a budget. You could also switch to alcohol-free alternatives, although I know that a lot of them are as expensive or sometimes even more. Kombucha is one, but using soda water with fresh lemon or lime is a great option. Berries and iced water, different smoothies. If you've got frozen fruit or fresh fruit, you can make a smoothie much more healthy, and in some ways can be less expensive. And then just to finish it off, I did include a couple recipes here. Like I said, there is a website that we do have on the handout for you at the end as well. It's called budgetbites.com, budgetbites.com, BYTES for bites, has many recipes that break things down into how much it costs per serving. Great way to start your meal plan if you want to do that. This is an example of vegetable barley soup, so lots and lots of veggies, and good protein as well from some of the things like the peas. Costs about $1.11 a serving, so pretty affordable. You can also freeze this if you made lots. Another option is the cabbage pancakes. These are really tasty. Japanese recipe. Again, you're looking at 62 cents a pancake, really. Probably don't even, you would need maybe more than 2. And, you know, if you pair this with something like an organic chicken thigh versus a breast, you know, you're going to save a little bit of money there. Maybe a little bit of greens on the side to kind of round it off. So just, again, some ideas for you. There's lots of options on this website. All right, so moving into supplements. First of all, nutrient deficiencies are a thing, and there are several that most Canadians do experience. And there's a balance between, you know, supplementing what you need and supplementing when you don't need things. I can say that my supplement cabinet is quite full, and I've been working on really paring things down. First, because I'm not using everything, and second, because it is expensive to just let things go to waste. So consider things that you may be deficient in first, right? Try to treat your deficiencies to create a healthy foundation. Obviously, the best source of nutrients is going to be through fresh, healthy, whole food. But we do sometimes need to supplement. And some reasons are because some of us restrict our diet. Some people are intermittent fasting or eating less, doing keto or paleo, or what have you. You may not be getting enough of some of the vital nutrients that you need. We've got picky eaters. Children can be picky eaters. I've got one. Absorption issues. Some people don't absorb very well. If you're on like a heartburn medication, like an antacid, those can deplete your B12 and your magnesium and your iron and your calcium and most of your minerals, and again create a deficiency. Highly processed diet's going to do the same. It just doesn't have what you need. Not eating enough fruit and vegetables, and soil depletion, which we as individuals don't have a ton of control over. Around the globe, our topsoil has depleted by more than 60%, and it takes, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of years to create topsoil again. So even if you're growing, you know, organic food, if you don't have a healthy soil, you're not going to get that nutrient coming into the food that you're eating from that plant. So soil depletion is a really big deal. Now, you want to look for signs of nutritional deficiencies. I'll get into that a little bit as we go into each product. But you can also get tested. There are some that are widely available through your local, whether you're, I'm not sure what they are across Canada, but Life Labs in BC and Ontario, Valley Medical in the Okanagan. And again, the middle provinces, I'm not exactly sure what your lab is, but basically your provincial lab can test for a lot of deficiencies. And you can also look at getting private testing done as well. So the first one is magnesium. Magnesium, I would say, is the most common deficiency across Canada. Magnesium, first of all, is not in our topsoil not in the soil like it used to be. It's also depleted by things like stress, again, which we all kind of are under at this point. And it is very essential. It is important for over 300 different reactions in our body, and it's important for our bone health. It's important for maintaining muscle strength and relaxation, and also important for our nerves. It can come in many different forms. So I put 2 bottles there that are an example. Children are also at risk for magnesium deficiency, mostly because of a picky diet. So you can get chewables. You can also get magnesium in the form of a citrate or a glycinate, also known as bisglycinate. Those would be the 2 I would choose if you're looking to replete your magnesium. I'd avoid the magnesium oxide because that tends to be a laxative and not really do the job that you're looking for. We see low levels of magnesium because, again, the soil depletion, but also if someone has low stomach acid from age, or because they're on a proton pump inhibitor or an antacid. And a lot of medications also deplete our ability to absorb magnesium or utilize magnesium. That includes birth control pills, a lot of different heart medications, and also certain psychoactives. So again, you might be on a medication that you need, but it could be depleting these vitamins and minerals that we so desperately need to keep in check. The second one is vitamin D, vitamin D3. Definitely in the Pacific Northwest where I am, we see deficiencies because of not getting enough ultraviolet from the sun. We also saw it a lot when I lived in the Okanagan. Any of you who are in Alberta right now or getting or in the prairies that are getting exposure to smoke from the fires. In Alberta, we are seeing that blockage of the UV rays from that particulate matter. So I found when I was in Kelowna and testing my patients for vitamin D3, 99% of people were coming in with low levels, and I was completely shocked because I went from living in Victoria and practicing to where we get sun, but it's not as much as the Okanagan, to when I lived in Kelowna and people were coming in deficient right, left, and center. So it was basically that combination of the fires that we had for 5 years, blocking that UV, not enabling us to make any, but also being so hot at some points where no one was going outside. So you weren't even enjoying it or getting that benefit anyway. So I do encourage testing for this one. It is a private test in, I think, every province probably. In other words, you can get it requisitioned by your medical doctor. You don't have to go to a naturopath, but you'll still have to pay at the lab, and it runs anywhere from $70 to probably $100. But it is important to get done, and I usually recommend it right around this time of year to see where your levels are. This will probably show your lowest possible level because we've come out of winter and the UV index is not high yet. Or you can do it at the end of the summer when you've been exposed to see sort of where your highest potential is. And that will help indicate or dictate what amount to supplement. Now, there's no harm, and Health Canada backs, no harm in up to 4,000 IUs per day, which is the general rule, which I always had recommended anyway. It used to be 2,000 and they upped it to 4. So when in doubt, take vitamin D anyway, but then look at getting tested to really understand if you need more, because it might surprise you. So you can get vitamin D in 1,000 micrograms. This is the most or 1,000 IUs, the most common one, but now 2,500 IUs is available per pill or per drop, depending on how you like to take it. And again, vitamin D is very important for our bone health, very important for immunity, and preventing a lot of different diseases, including some types of cancer. The next one would be probiotics. So probiotics are supplement versions of our good bacteria. Our microbiome is crucial for many different things. It's crucial for our immune system. 80 to 90% of our immune system is located in the gut, and we know that probiotics can modulate that and play a huge impact, even in things like how often you get the common cold. They also are involved in helping make different nutrients for you, helping with assimilating your food, affecting mood. So again, the list goes on and on. These are fabulous little beings that live inside of us, but we are often deficient in either total number or variety because of things like antibiotics, right? Antibiotics are commonly taken, and yes, they are absolutely necessary at times, but they're also found in our food and in our water. So we're getting antibiotics when we don't even really know it. Antibiotics kill our good bacteria as well. We also see stress impacting bacterial loads. If you travel, or if you have travel to certain areas and eat bad food or bad water, you can also really impact your microbiome. And so a lot of people do require this. It didn't used to be the case, right? We didn't always have antibiotics, but they've just become so pervasive that the average person's gut health is definitely not superb. So a general probiotic that you can take, Acidophilus and bifidus is one. That's a blend of a couple different strains, but you can also get more intensive ones depending on whether you've been on antibiotics, frequently or every year for a sinus infection, for example. Great for kids as well, really to help maintain a healthy GI tract and good flora and support your immune system as well as your gut-brain axis. All right, and then we have omega-3 fatty acids. So this would be also very affordable, a very, very good thing to take while on a budget, because getting the equivalent from fish will be quite expensive, as well as if you are choosing some of the cheaper fish. In my example would be tuna or canned tuna. The amount of mercury and other heavy metals that exist in tuna does outweigh that benefit of getting the omegas that you might find. So an omega-3 supplement really is a good health option for you. Omega-3s are essential. Now, if you don't eat fish, there are lots of vegetarian and vegan options. Always look for algae-based because you're going to get more the human form or the animal form, but from an algae source. The plant-based omegas do require quite a conversion in our bodies, and only about 20% of the omegas in plant-based, so flax, hemp, pumpkin, for example, only about 20% of that omega is going to be converted in the usable form for your body. So you can take more, obviously, if you want, but if you don't mind fish oil or fish oil in a soft gel format, then this would be the best option for you. So omega-3s from fish and the animal form is EPA and DHA. Those are the forms we use in our body. Really important for mood balance or keeping our brain healthy. Our brain is mostly fat. Very important for eye function. It's anti-inflammatory and it's very supportive of cardiovascular health as well. We know the Mediterranean diet contains omega-3, and that's one reason why it has been considered the healthiest diet or nutrition plan, I guess you'd say, around the world. Right, and finally, the B vitamins. So the B vitamins, there are 8 of them. We often forget how important they are. They are, going to be found in your fruits and vegetables, in your nuts and seeds, and also in whole grains. But they are water soluble, and that means we don't store them. And so B vitamins are something we do have to consume from either, again, our food or supplement form on a daily basis to maintain adequate levels. B vitamins are also depleted by stress, like magnesium, and a lot of other medications will deplete your Bs. And each medication will deplete, anywhere from 1 to all 8. There's lots of, you can speak with your naturopathic doctor to go through that list if you are on any meds and you're wondering if you should take a complex like the one I have on the screen here, or if it would be better to focus on maybe 1 or 2 of the Bs specifically if you are on, again, certain meds that would deplete them. Alcohol consumption also really does play a huge role in depleting B vitamins. And then, as I mentioned, stress and poor or restrictive diets. So B vitamins have lots of different functions. They're involved, we think of them as providing energy most of the time because they just help assimilate the food that we eat. But they're involved in red blood cell production. They're involved in keeping us healthy against the impacts of blood sugar and insulin. Keeps insulin healthy, involved in, the health of our eyes, the health or prevention of things like headaches. The list goes on. I could spend an hour in each of the 8. So if you're not sure, consider a B complex. Always best to take a B complex with food. And but if you're unsure, then again, speak to your healthcare provider to determine whether you would benefit from 1 or more particular B vitamin specifically. All right, so moving into exercise and how to engage in a low-cost exercise routine instead of spending, anywhere from $40 to $100 a month at a gym. If that's not your thing, then there's a lot that you can do at home. And also, don't be so hard on yourself. You might be actually engaging in a lot of physical exercise while you are at home. So everything from, doing housework to if you're a mom and you've got a stroller and 1 or more children, right? Pushing that stroller, especially if you're going up and down hills, really great. Playing organized sports, or just going for hikes or nature walks is going to give you some benefit for sure. Lots of different forms of benefit that we see in our bodies, again, everything from weight management to improvement in mood, supporting longevity. It does improve our sleep as well and provides more mental clarity and support for cognition. And then the cardiovascular component of physical activity, of course, is really important for cardiovascular health. Now, 3 components. In addition to cardiovascular fitness, we've got flexibility and muscle strength. So those are the 3 main parts that we want to make sure we are addressing. The first being flexibility. You can, anything anywhere from stretching to yoga and Pilates that's going to help with this part. So this helps to increase and support your muscle strength and helps you maintain a good posture as I'm sitting in my chair here. It's really important for blood circulation and helps with relaxation and stress relief. Now, if you're trying to improve flexibility or make more of this, make more time for this in your life, then you can look at finding, there are lots of yoga videos online. There's also some apps that are free and some that are paid. But I encourage you not, if you don't want to, again, spend $15 to $20 a pop at per yoga class. Not that I'm against that at all, but to stay on budget, try to find some online first and see if you like it. The next part is muscle strength and endurance. So, you can do this at home by doing different exercises and also, buying a couple sets of weights or some bands, and you can do this at home. This muscle strength and endurance is really going to support your joints as well as protect your bones, because the more strain or stress you put on your bones, the more they remodel. Really important, specifically for women too, who have a risk or a family history of osteoporosis. Once we go through menopause, our estrogen is no longer as protective of the bones, and so we start to see that density go down. And yes, you can supplement, but you also have to encourage the remodeling of your bone. And the best way to do that is with weight training. Muscle strength and endurance is also important for supporting your insulin levels and your blood pressure and helping improve your body composition. So again, these can be done at home. You can find other examples and videos of, quick 20-minute workouts. I usually suggest focusing on things like the upper body one day and the lower body the next, and also starting slow. I've done this before where I've entered a physical a new routine, and I do too much and I hurt the next day, or I hurt for the next 3 or 4 days, and then I'm no longer able to maintain doing my exercises every day. And so if you go slow, it's worth it. You then won't have a struggle to walk up the stairs the next day. So look at doing low cost exercises like squats and push-ups, tricep dips, plank, all that kind of stuff at home, and you can find some great videos again online. All right, and then the last component is cardiovascular fitness. One of the easiest things to do on a budget, because you can just go for a brisk walk, or you can go for a run, you can go for a hike. You can also do things that you enjoy. Maybe you're in a dance class, or if you go swimming this kind of time of year, right? We can now go into our lakes or beaches and swim for free, and not rather than going to a rec center, getting on your bike, doing your chores that way. So cardiovascular fitness is really important for cardiovascular health. It also helps to maintain healthy cholesterol levels and does help diminish high stress levels. All right, so are you active enough? Ways to compare yourself here are what is recommended. There's a poll question right now. How often are you physically active? So never, 1 to 2 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week, or 5 or more times per week. I'm like in the 2 to 3 probably right now with my toddler. So I'll share that answer embarrassingly, but it is something that can be one of the harder things to implement, because it does take time out of your day. So you want to have at least 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity aerobic physical activity per week. And you do want to do at least 10 minutes at a time. So you can't just do like 3 minutes here and 3 minutes there and try to add it all up. You do need at least 10 minutes to get your heart rate to go up and sustain it there, so that you get that benefit. Then you also want to look at doing muscle and bone strengthening activities at least 2 to 3 days per week, and then limiting your sedentary hours to 8 hours or less per day. And that is not including sleep, obviously, but during the day, if you work at a desk, be mindful of getting up every hour at least, and doing a quick walk around, stretching the legs. And if you can, if it's your job, it's maybe not possible, but to limit your screen time, especially recreationally. So if you work all day in front of the computer, like I do some days, going and watching Netflix for another couple hours is not going to do me any good, right? So limiting that time will also help keep you moving. I use, for myself, I use something called a QE, and it goes under my desk, and it's like basically like a step machine or a walking machine. I can get my 10,000 steps while I sit at my desk, and I find that very convenient because, again, with my life and my toddler, things that take time don't always fit. So I encourage you to, again, look at ways to kind of mesh that together. It looks like, yeah, most of us, so 40%, 1 to 2 times a week, and 40%, 3 to 4 times a week, and only 16, 5 or more times a week. But no one said they're never physically active, so that's great. All right, so finally, how do we manage stress and prevent burnout and improve sleep? So stress, as you know, can be physical or mental or emotional. It can be good stress. It can be bad stress. But medical research does suggest that 90% of all illness and disease is stress related. So regardless of what the stress is or how it makes you feel, it does create the same response in your body. In other words, the impact on cortisol and on your adrenal health. So we want to talk about how we can prevent the exhaustion phase, which is the eventual sort of endpoint of what happens if we don't intervene and do something to control our stress and protect our adrenals. When you look at the general adaptation syndrome, we look at what stress does for us in the beginning of our lives. When we have a big stress or a trauma, it creates that fight or flight. Now that it could be a large stress, or it could be something like a deadline, or it could be something like the traffic that you deal with every day that might stimulate your fight or flight, right? And so having that constant nagging stress or a very large traumatic stress can really push us into what we call the resistance phase. And the resistance phase is where I see most of my patients. This is where your adrenals are, sometimes the cortisol is really robust or too much, and other times it's actually really low. And you get a lot of that, the symptoms coming up, you get a lot of the conditions starting, and that's where most of my patients see me because they want to, feel better. If it's not dealt with at that time, then we go into the exhaustion phase. This is where we start to see chronic illness. We see, really high blood pressure, major depression, suicide. We see a lot of those really bad diseases coming in because stress does play a role in so many parts of our health. And it's that exhaustion phase that we really want to avoid because it's much harder to get out of that than it is the resistance phase. So ways to support your adrenals and support your body to stay out of that exhaustion phase and avoid it altogether would be to eat well and be physically active. We'll also want to get enough sleep, which we'll mention in the next few slides. Consider natural, herbal, or health products. So supplements I'll talk about in a moment. And then practice laughter, gratitude, and relaxation, as well as connecting with nature. So supplements that you can consider for adrenal health. Magnesium is a huge one. Again, magnesium is depleted by stress, and so are B vitamins. We've already discussed those two. We mentioned probiotics. Stress also will deplete your probiotic strains because it puts stress on the gut. But vitamin C is also important. Vitamin C is a really important nutrient for your adrenals. So I usually recommend around 500 to 1,000 milligrams per day, depending. And then you can look at other nutraceuticals. So things like L-theanine and GABA, both of which will raise GABA levels in your brain. This helps you go from a busy beta state down into the alpha, which is when you are feeling calm and grounded. That really is helpful for a lot of people who have active mind before bedtime to take that. L-theanine also extremely safe. So, you can, I suggest that for students and people that, have exams. It's not sedating. So, if you find that it's stressful to be driving in the car, for example, you can take it while you're driving. It's not going to be cause any problem at all. Ashwagandha is one of the most common and widely used adaptogens. This is one I use um, all the time, especially if I don't know where someone's cortisol levels are sitting. So it helps to balance cortisol. So if you're too high or if you're too low, it will help in both states. Ashwagandha comes in many forms. I know we're talking about supplements and living well on a budget, but if stress is a really important or a really pervasive part of your life, then looking at a really well absorbed as well as clinically effective ashwagandha is worth it. So one that I use a lot with my patients is KSM 66. So it's the letter K, S, and M, and then a hyphen, and then 66. And this is a particular extract of ashwagandha that has many, many clinical trial and results in humans to show its benefit for, again, the stress response, but also things like sleep and well-being. Also really great for men. It does help with low testosterone levels. Rhodiola is another one that's great for the adrenals. Nice balancer as well. Very safe. Again, you want to look for an extract that contain the rhodiola components. And then saffron, another one that you can look at. This one would be also very good for states of low mood or depression. All right, connecting with nature is important. Forest bathing became quite popular over the last few years, which is, again, just enjoying or simply relaxing in nature or in a forest. Going outside, if you live hopefully near some nature, is going to benefit you if you can do it on a daily basis. Hug a tree. It sounds funny, but it is pretty grounding. Standing barefoot on grass. I love doing this in the morning, especially with the dew. We had a naturopathic professor that, he swore and he told all of his patients to do this every single day. And I kind of, thought that was maybe a bit funny, but when you do it, it is a really cool feeling, especially when there's dew and you just ground yourself. And you just sort of feel that energy through your feet and through your body. Eat outside and grow your own food if you have the ability. Some ways to really connect with nature. All right, and last thing is sleep. How to improve your sleep quality and quantity if you need to. So how much should you get? And the answer is about 7 to 8 hours for most adults. Question up here now, the poll question is, do you wish you had better sleep? I'm really lucky with my daughter, and I'm very grateful that she sleeps well. So my sleep is pretty on par right now, but I do understand what it can feel like when you are deprived. So if you are an adult on this call, I'm sure most of you are, look at getting 7 to 8, even maybe 9 hours of restful, good sleep, because it is, again, responsible for, if you don't get enough good sleep, responsible for a lot of different conditions. Just looking at the poll here, it looks like 83% of you wish you had better sleep. All right, so we need some sleep support. All right, so I'll focus a little bit on this. So sleep is correlated with stress and a lot of other things, but this is something some people are not aware of. If you are under high stress, your cortisol goes up. We know that. And what does that high cortisol do? Well, it actually can suppress the activity of your melatonin. So high cortisol suppressing melatonin will not allow you to fall asleep very easily, because melatonin is your sleep hormone and it is a sedative, and it essentially helps you sleep and stay sleeping. And then of course you have if you have low melatonin, then you have sleep issues, that increases your stress, it increases your cortisol. It's a very vicious cycle. But it's also important that, I'll stay back here. It's also important to understand that not enough cortisol is also a concern. Now, not enough cortisol is when you are in that exhaustion phase, or even in that resistance stage of that adrenal dysfunction, and not getting enough cortisol because you are burnt out will actually impair your ability to get good REM sleep, which is your rapid eye movement sleep, that state of sleep where we do a lot of detoxification and recovery. So it is a double-edged sword with cortisol, but does show how important managing that is. Another stat that I read was that if you lose sleep, if you have a night of 4 hours or less, that actually can increase your cortisol the next day by 37%. So again, if you don't get enough sleep, your cortisol goes up. That will impact your ability to sleep. You won't get enough sleep, your cortisol will go up, and again, it continues and continues. So breaking that cycle with adrenal support's very important. And just implementing ways to get better restorative sleep, because it's important for so many things, for your body and your mind, for energy levels, concentration. It's a big one for students. It's important for maintaining stress at a low level. It reduces the risk of chronic disease. We know that obesity and heart disease are both closely linked, as well as dementia and Alzheimer's, with poor sleep. It also improves your immune system, and again, as mentioned, processes memories and supports your brain function. So ways to maintain or cost-effective steps, essentially, to help you maintain or achieve restorative sleep would be first identifying what the problem is for yourself. So is it high stress? Is it you're not falling asleep because you have an active mind? What do you need to do for that? Well, magnesium might be an option for you, right? Maybe you do have low melatonin from having too much cortisol, and you need to consider, taking something like melatonin. Or is it the screen time, right? Or is it, hormones? It could be so many things. Really identifying that will save you time and save you money, because you'll be able to target that concern directly. Other ways to do that is to, eat well and engage in regular exercise. Maintain your stress or manage your stress, and also support your adrenals. Establish a bedtime routine. So whether that's, reading before bed, whether that's taking a bath, doing some meditation or deep breathing, really to get your body more grounded and ready for bed. And eliminate those inhibitors of sleep, which, again, big one is screen time, or having lights on in your room, or bright lights shining outside that can impact your ability for you to secrete your melatonin. Stabilizing blood sugar levels, this is really important. I see this again in practice quite a lot, where if you have some fiber before bed, or maybe between dinner and bedtime, and so it could be fiber from food like blueberries or something, or it could be a fiber supplement that can actually support your blood sugar for many hours. And I do see that in many people, it's that blood sugar sort of spike and dip that can happen while you're sleeping, when your liver is detoxifying and you're dumping sugar into your bloodstream to keep things moving. You can sometimes get too much of a spike, and you can wake up in the middle of the night. This happens a lot with people that drink alcohol, because they're getting that liver detoxification occurring and a dumping of sugar into the bloodstream, and that subsequently causes them to wake up. So I really highly suggest, if you do have issues with your sleep, to consider a fiber supplement. Anything from PGX I've seen work really well, Relief Fiber, or even as a simple straight up taking some having some blueberries before bed, as mentioned, can really help you to maintain good sleep. Create a relaxed sleep environment, and then you can use natural sleep aids if needed. So we talked about magnesium, melatonin, and L-theanine, and there are also many herbs that help too, and you can do that in tea form, or you can do that in supplement form as well. So it is important also to be aware that you sometimes need to seek professional advice for insomnia. I include this because sleep issues are so common in Canadians. I see it in so many of my patients. So it is important to seek that professional advice if you're finding that you haven't slept much for more than 4 weeks, and even 2 weeks is, really will impact quality of life. But looking at getting some professional help to support that. If you're finding it interferes with your daytime activities or your ability to function, like your focus or your memory, or if your mood, if you're really irritable and affecting the people around you. If you have a concern of sleep apnea, so if or maybe your partner, your bed partner notices that, you're gasping at night or your breathing is a little funny, it is free to get assessed for sleep apnea. You can get referrals through your medical doctor or naturopath, and then you can get a free assessment through different independent clinics that will, test your VO2, your oxygen, and your saturation, all that overnight. And that's important because if you do have sleep apnea, you need to address it. Sleep apnea does increase that risk of heart disease and high blood pressure. So, if that means you have to go on a CPAP machine for a little while, it can actually, be pretty profound in how it improves not just your sleep, but other medical conditions that you might have. And then you might be having issues with sleep because of medication. So if that's also something that is potential, then you want to discuss that with your healthcare provider to see if there's a different time that you can take it, perhaps a different version, or maybe a different type of dosing that would be best for you to avoid that sleep impact. All right, last thing to be aware of, I guess, tonight would be Ishura and what Ishura is all about, because Ishura is an important testing facility that in the long term, of course, will save you money, because Ishura is testing to make sure that supplements are verified clean and are non-GMO, so not adding any insult to injury. Ishura is a third-party testing facility in Burnaby that is considered one of the best in contamination testing. It's testing for up to 800 different contaminants. That includes everything from pesticides and heavy metals to things like glyphosate, to allergens, but it's also testing to make sure what you see on the label is actually in the product. And this is what I find really very important, because there are a lot of different things out on the market. If you're buying your products at Nutters, and you're pretty going to be sure that your products are good, but there are some times where companies will skip steps, and you might not be getting what you're actually wanting in the product, and that's, again, you're spending money on things that is just really essentially being wasted. So again, look for that Ishura stamp. Everything we talked about tonight is certified through Ishura. There are several companies that use the Ishura program. Again, just to make sure everything is clean, but also accurately labeled, so you are getting what you pay for.